would be enough for me. That would be enough for me. Yeah, that would be enough for me.
Vacation. A word that usually implies time off from work, relaxation with the fam, and lots of yummy food. Well, one would think. To my 9th and 10th grade self, it meant that I needed to be extra strict with myself before and after that vacation. I distinctly remember that for weeks leading up to the vacation, I would try to eat as, quote, clean as possible and would never take a rest day. All the working ahead in school so I could just take a week off was really for nothing because I never took a break. I would do anything I could not to lose my rigid routine. I was so inflexible to the point where I would get so upset if I didn't accomplish every last task on my to-do list. In other words, relaxation wasn't in my vocabulary and I feared being unproductive, even for a day. On vacation, I also obsessed about the dumbest things, like how much I'd weigh when I got home and how, quote, out of shape I'd be for swim.
Look at this side! Oh, it's so pretty, look at the ocean!
Questions like these always popped into my head, and I simply didn't know how to dismiss them at the time. My OCD tendencies really took over my life. Looking back, I realized how lost I was. I had a lot of fears, but I was mostly afraid of losing progress, whether that was progress in the gym or progress in school. I remember instead of watching TV with my family on vacation, I had to do that YouTube workout. And don't get me wrong, working out is great, but at the time I didn't have a healthy relationship with fitness. If I didn't feel like I was going to die during my workouts, it didn't count to me. And if I were to skip a day working out, I'd feel immense guilt. You see, I was putting all my worth in what my body looked like. I thought that to be beautiful and accepted, I just needed to be smaller, more toned, and more disciplined. At least that's what the world told me. But know that life is so much more than the gym, food, and your appearance. As much as the world doesn't stress this, your kindness, love, patience, and generosity are all aspects of you that are so much more important than looks. Not to mention your relationship with Jesus if you're a Christian. Remember that you're beautiful the way you are and you don't need to change yourself. I think that's what I was missing all those years. I was constantly chasing a version of myself that the world told me was better. If I could just look like the other girls, if I could just be liked by people and feel accepted for being me. But by constantly trying to change myself for worldly approval, I wasn't trusting in God's plan for my life. Please don't ever change yourself to fit the current standard of beauty or likability. Don't change your unique self to be like everyone else.
It's just so easy when everybody talks.
Take my hand and hold it tight. Look at the paintings, I'll be your guide.
I once saw a quote that said, "Be the brightest crayon in the box." To me, this means standing out by being your authentic self. It doesn't mean trying to blend in with everyone else. We aren't meant to be the same people in our personalities, looks, or talents. We can stand out by being who God made us to be. Because we're all different, our bodies aren't going to look exactly the same, and that's okay. I remember as a young girl thinking that I knew what I was supposed to look like. The fact is that bodies aren't a one-size-fits-all. Just because I exercise and eat like someone doesn't mean that I'll ever look the same. We all have different skeletal structures and features that can all be celebrated, but there isn't one body type that's superior. So let's stop comparing ourselves to others. Comparison is something I struggled with from a young age. It was my younger self comparing my violin playing to someone else, my swim time to my teammates, my food intake to my classmates, the number of friends I had to others, and the list goes on. If you don't learn how to stop the cycle of comparison, it can ruin your life. When it comes to feeling confident in your own skin, remember that, as cliche as it sounds, there's only one of you in this giant universe. So remember the one who created you and put you on this earth in the first place, and know that you shouldn't live life pretending to be someone that you're not. Of course, striving to be a better person and having good role models are all admirable, but there's a fine line between looking up to that person and comparing yourself to that person. Striving for the unattainable perfection in every area of your life will always leave you feeling empty because perfection is simply impossible to achieve. When we set the bar so high that we're never able to reach it, we feel disappointed.
Over. Ah, there we go. You like
When I was younger, I thought if I just tried harder, if I just paid more attention in class, if I just studied harder, or if I were just more outgoing, if I practiced more, that I could achieve perfection in life.
It's a bird. Say hi.
Turns out that I was always let down because I was looking for something that didn't exist. In the same way, realize that there's no perfect body. In the past, I thought there was such a thing, and I was always striving towards something that never existed.
It is? I didn't touch it.
Nobody touched it.
The image of the perfect female body has changed countless times over the years. Oftentimes, there's no rhyme or reason for why certain body types are celebrated while others are shunned. So next time you're feeling down, know that you're beautiful no matter what you look like, and you should live life with the confidence that only comes from knowing Christ. I don't find my identity anymore in how I look, how many friends I have, how much I weigh, or how successful I am in life. I find my identity in Christ, knowing that His death on the cross saved me.
Whoa, this is really good, Dad. Really flavorful. Wow.
And even if you're not a Christian, just remember that you don't need to compare your body to others because no one else is exactly like you. If you compare your body to someone else's, it's an improper comparison. For all my workaholics out there, I want to remind you that rest isn't earned, it's a necessity. In the past, I had such a militant view of life that I rarely took time to enjoy the journey. Please know that burnout is a real thing that I actually experienced in my junior year of high school. I'd worked myself so hard that I literally didn't care about anything. Now I've come around to a healthy work-life balance, but for the longest time, I was either a perfectionist or I didn't care at all. Now I try my best at everything, but I'm also okay with failure. Failure is a part of life, so don't take things too seriously. Laugh at your mistakes and learn from them. I'm still a perfectionist at heart, but I'm learning to accept when things don't go as planned.
So they're just grafting it?
Now I'm more flexible and I can appreciate my hard work even if the result was something less than I'd hoped for. So please take a break and take time to celebrate the small victories in your life. You don't have to be doing something productive every single second. You're allowed to lay on the couch for a nap, take a rest day when you need one, and just go with the flow. As much as this defies hustle culture, we have to make sure that we take time to rest, live in the moment, and not be so overly concerned with getting ahead in life. The funny thing is, sometimes being less rigid can lead to opportunities that you never would have imagined.
What do you think of the fries? Did they turn out okay?
Trust me, this is coming from an OCD schedule maniac. I realized that after practicing flexibility in my life, that I started having a less rigid approach to life. Being less rigid and coping with my OCD tendencies have helped me in overcoming my issues with food and body image. Of course, I still struggle, but things are so much better.
Yeah, I think you'd like this ice cream.
I want to point out that there are good things about being so detail-oriented and driven, but sometimes people like us who have this extreme tendency get so caught up in the tiny minute details that we miss the bigger picture. So don't be afraid to color outside the lines. Just because everything isn't picture perfect doesn't mean that you failed.
This is so hard to do with one hand.
You don't need to have every last detail of your life figured out. Embrace abstract art because that's really how I see life. Tons of random shapes and colors that really have no correlation, and yet together, these elements comprise a stunning masterpiece. Progress in life isn't linear, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's good. It's like tart. And then like you can feel the strawberry fibers in it. Yeah. It's really good.
Let's ditch the fear of failure and instead focus on what brings us joy. In my case, if I hadn't chosen to abandon my thoughts of failure, I would have never started this YouTube channel. So don't let your irrational fears hold you back in life. You already have so many obstacles as it is, so don't stand in your own way.
Alright, we just got back from our walk, and this is what we look in our bathroom and see.
Water coming out of our light fixture.
I don't know what's happening. I hope this gets fixed.
the window, reaching for a North Star, waiting just to wake up from this nightmare where you could be right back in my.
So if you've been watching my videos for a while now, you would know that I absolutely cannot eat any gluten and I have to be pretty sparing with my dairy intake. So on this vacation, we definitely had to do a bit more cooking than previous years. Unfortunately, the one time that I did eat out on this vacation, I had a terrible stomachache. So I'd say with my dietary issues, I just have to cook everything myself. Sure, I couldn't eat the freshly caught fried grouper or the juicy burger at Cheeseburger, but I know that God still has a plan for all this. I know in the end that He's making me a stronger and more empathetic individual. Even though this physical body sometimes fails me, like when I can't eat certain foods or when I have joint pain, I know that one day I'll be in heaven with Jesus and I'll have a perfect body there. So just remember that this world isn't our forever home.
Okay, this is so pretty. Oh my goodness, I love the breeze.
The main thing is learning from your mistakes and not being a slave to them or your guilty conscience. With Jesus, He wipes away any type of guilt or shame. I know with my past eating disorder, I felt really guilty about it for the longest time. I realized that everyone struggles with something different. For me, it was that. But know that Jesus is bigger than any of our problems, so run to Him. Remember that with Jesus, all things are possible.
Wow, that was far. Good job.
You were the laughter early in the morning, down in the kitchen watching TV. You were the music that led me to the sixth string, and now it's been so long since I've heard you sing. I looked up to you, brother, even when you lost your way in the madness. Girl, you give me feelings in the summertime, something about the weather in July, but I'm about as fickle as the sands of time.
On this vacation, I noticed one thing about myself. I wasn't so concerned about how I looked all the time. There's no way that a few years ago I would feel remotely okay with wearing a swimsuit, but this year was different. Ever since I was a little girl, I've been self-conscious about nearly everything, from the color of my hair to the roundness of my stomach. And I know that this isn't that uncommon for girls, especially ones who've been bullied because of that. But to all of you with a similar insecurity, know that we are lied to by most of social media, TV shows, and celebrity pictures. Photoshop has damaged so many girls to the point where everyone basically knows that a flat stomach is good and a rounder stomach is bad. Even though society has brainwashed us into this style of thinking, this is simply untrue. And when we live life trying to constantly change ourselves for society's approval, we're basically telling ourselves that we're not good enough. Usually in those circumstances, we feel a little self-conscious at first, then slowly that feeling starts to fade, and then before you know it, you're a completely different person. And by different, I mean you've compromised your values and beliefs to mold yourself into someone that you aren't. Don't lose the person that God made you to be.
It's crazy to think we're the same kid. It's just circles in my head. I've been running after something I know money couldn't help. Always starving for my purpose, maybe I ain't found it yet. Honest questions with my mother, all these things you think you want, will they ever be enough?
Good morning. Going biking again, so we'll try to do 12 miles. Yeah, so see you there.
I think it's important to talk about these deeper issues because a lot of the time issues with food and body image are at the core issues with self-esteem. I know for me that was the issue and it's still an issue, but now I understand that I am so much more than just a body. You are so much more than just a body. Switching your mindset from worrying so much about what people think of you to being more focused on what you can do for others really puts things in perspective. So on this beach vacation, I was so incredibly grateful that I could see God's beautiful creation. I am still so in love with the sunsets and beautiful waves. This week, I ate everything I wanted, went out in a swimsuit unafraid of judgment, prioritized rest, moved my body for fun, and was myself the entire time. I laughed with my family, wore no makeup for most of the trip, and prioritized living in the moment. Not in the past, not in the future, but living in the now. So I hope today that you'll give yourself permission to laugh at your mistakes, randomly dance when you're happy, eat your favorite foods, and live life to the fullest. I'm so grateful that I'm alive today, and I hope you are too. Sometimes I know we get so caught up in life that we forget to be grateful for these seemingly small things. You're here for a reason, and that's something I hope you'll always remember. We aren't guaranteed tomorrow, so how will you live it?